Hi, everybody. Maybe. Hello?
Yep, we're here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. So we are doing Low
Whoa.
Diamond this week, and our guest is our DB guy, DB.
DB. That's me.
DB.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
all I got. That's my intro.
Dude in charge of some of the best named perfect team alts there are.
Yeah, today I'll be representing the Cochabamba Capybaras, my go-to team in Low Diamond.
Let's not. I think we'd be remiss in our duties if we didn't give a shout out to the axolotls as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the
The
axolotls are great.
Xochimilco
Yeah.
axolotls.
So there were some requests, I think, in the stream here to talk a little bit about Build Legend stuff. I asked Dish if he could send me some slides, and he blocked me. So we can't do that. But we can speculate a little bit.
Although that is impressive that you get somebody as nice as Dish to block you. That's an achievement.
Yeah, to be fair, I kind of asked for it. So I'm joking. The joke is that I asked him nicely if he would send me a thing I knew he wasn't allowed to send me, and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm never talking to you again, guy." But now he would probably just tell me to tune in to This Week in Perfect Team in 5 hours to find out,
Which you should.
which you absolutely should do.
And if they I'm telling you, if they ever start running that at a time that isn't 3 a.m. here, I will totally do that.
Absolutely. So sure. You wanna just talk briefly about what our hopes and expectations are for these perfect cards tonight?
Sure. So I guess first off, what are we expecting overall, right? We're expecting a perfect version of each of the build lineups and probably at least
Yep.
one topper.
There's one topper, as far as we know, which we don't really have any information on other than, maybe it might not be something that sits in exactly the same spot as the rest of them. I would expect the topper to be a beast. I would expect it to be a perfect card of some sort. All of the toppers so far have been really good, right? Like the judge, what people sort of rolled their eyes at, but it's actually a very good card. Edgar was tremendous.
Yeah, and it's nice getting some of those cards. Judge and Edgar are both 99, so they have a lot more utility in tournaments. They're not as easily.
I expect the Stanton
powered out,
to show up in conversations today about this format.
Yeah, that was definitely kind of a now obligatory card for any low diamond format, pretty much. I'd say.
I think so. Yeah. It could be. It could be a DH. We could get another Edgar now. I was joking around with kidneys about it last night, and I think the terror scenario for him is that just like every topper from here on out is a different Randy Johnson.
Could see
Right?
that.
Just like he had 5 different Cy Young seasons. We'll just have one of those for every year, and then a peak Randy Johnson, and maybe throw like a high iron rookie Randy Johnson in there, and we'll make it happen.
Well, someone's got to be able to get Kruk out, right?
That's true.
He is the bird killer. The bird profile is better this year.
So we don't have
never. I didn't see that live, but I saw it, like on replay the same day it happened, and I will never get that image out of my head. It's just incredible.
That's truly one of the most baseball things to ever baseball.
So we don't have a perfect Edgar yet, but the 99 Edgar is labeled peak. So I don't think we can get another Edgar.
So unless there's like a Hall of Fame set or something, you could get like a Hall of Fame Edgar if they wanted to do real nonsense there. let's talk about Joe Mauer. Let's go around just through the position players in order, and then touch on the pitchers real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for all of these, my thinking is what we're going to get is a better version of the card shape that we've had. So the cards that have played well so far will mostly be useful. I guess maybe with the exception that for the diamonds in particular, some of the cards that made it to low diamond maybe were even more useful than some of the high diamonds just because of the extra tournament formats. And here they're all going to be labeled 100.
Right. I will also say that Cal Ripken is a weird. We'll get there. Joe Mauer, the diamonds in 97. It sees play in Perfect League. Cards. I was about to say it's good. I think it's really just that there's a real lack of elite left-handed hitting catchers.
Yeah, Mauer's pretty much been a playable option in every year of Perfect Team just because of that.
Yeah, from the right side, you get like both Pudges. You get Brian Downing. You get Piazza moving down a little bit, who's not embarrassing to be playing. But your left-handed choices are much thinner. So I would expect the Perfect Mauer to at least be trainable at first base, and probably be like the de facto left-handed catcher in the game for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Mauer's. I hate playing my Mauer. I don't have him as a top 10 option in my model, and I'm playing him basically in my league roster.
Playing him in my league roster as well. I'm playing in a very left-handed favored park, so I try to start Downing in every. If I were micromanaging, I would start Downing in every road game, and I would start Mauer at home versus righties. But I'm not, so he just it's a straight platoon. Should be good, right? Like an upgrade over an already playable card should just be good.
I think it'll be an upgrade with the bat, but I'm not as convinced about the glove.
I mean, the glove is already fine, right? Like, it's not elite, but it's not going to hurt you too bad either. It's what, 90-90?
This one is, yeah, that's better than last year's Mauer already, I think.
Yeah.
Last year's Mauer really needed to be a DH almost.
Sure. Moving to first base.
Yeah, McCovey's an interesting one.
McCovey's, you could get just like a card that comes in and is immediately useless, or you could get a card that really bridges the gap for people that don't have access to Gehrig. And I don't know what to expect.
I gotta think he'll at least be a platoon.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead, DB.
I was just gonna say, I'm hoping. I think even a not as good as could be left-handed option will be more useful because there's still so much domination by right-handed pitchers at the moment in league play. So he might be useful as a platoon even if he's not, theoretically a good card.
Yeah, well, and he's just going to be more accessible than the other top options at the moment, right? Like Gehrig is very expensive. Todd Helton is hard to get because he's a tournament reward card. Where do you even go from there? Buck Leonard, I guess, would be next, and that's also a very expensive card due to the quest for Pop Lloyd. So.
Yeah, I mean, I run Harry Davis both ways in league right now, so
that's right. You mean like Perfect League playable Harry Davis?
Yeah, he's just fine.
I'm running Jimmy Fox.
It's funny this year. I think this year more than others, for sure. There's been a lot of right-handers that don't need platooned as much. So it's interesting to see if that'll change at all as we get to more of the meat of the real meta cards here.
I'm only expecting a couple of these really to be key league cards, and I feel like because they've labeled that Gehrig card as a peak card and kind of started it far ahead of everything else, I really can't see McCovey being better than Gehrig. And if he were a
Oh,
righty,
I
I'd
can't
love to play
imagine.
him. But as a lefty, I think it's still going to be an unplayable card.
I can't imagine that it'll come close to Gehrig. Like Gehrig is still, for my money, the best bat in the game.
Yeah.
2 months after release, right? Like it would be very weird for this to be where they decide to start pushing that boundary out.
Yeah, I agree.
Second base,
Yeah.
Oh.
I was just going to say the same thing. I'll say second base, Joe Morgan's kind of the same deal, where it's just a rare lefty option, right?
yeah. So I think Joe Morgan. If I'm making predictions with no insider information here, right? Like we'll all find out how wrong I am in a little under 5 hours. But my prediction is that Joe Morgan is going to be the most meta changing card released today, other than the topper, because the topper could be anything, right? Like that's I don't know, man. How weird do they feel like getting with that? But of the proper build a lineup cards, I expect that this Joe Morgan will be one, by far the best left-handed bat in the game, at least at this point, at second base, and two, the best natural second baseman defensively in the game.
Yeah, it just seems like the most immediately useful for sure, right? Like pretty much any team could benefit from a really good Joe Morgan right now. Even if you have Jackie, it might be a good platoon option. And you need a second guy that can play second base. So.
I do have Jackie, and I will absolutely start platooning Jackie.
Yeah.
Again, with the caveat that my home stadium favors left-handed hitting, like as much as it possibly could. So if anyone is incentivized to do that, it's me. But yeah, and just like a quick thought on the Gehrig conversation going on here. I think this is a card that if they didn't need to tie it into Lou Gehrig Day, probably would not have been released until September.
I agree. Yeah.
Right. Like it's kind of the power level that I expect most meta cards to be at in a month or two. But I obviously, in order to have the art be what it is, and I'm sure this isn't the only reason, but they needed to have that tie-in, so they had to release it really early. And rather than adjust peak Lou Gehrig to what the metagame is like in May, they just let it out the door as it was, which I think was a bit of a rough decision at the time. But at this point, I think it's there are enough of them in circulation now that it's not that big a problem.
Well, I think it also makes it harder for them to do something like release an Ortiz topper.
I think there are other reasons for that as well. I think that was Kidney's like first prediction on toppers, right? Like we have Edgar, who's your kind of right-handed DH. So there would be some nice symmetry if they were to have a Big Papi topper here. But probably he'll be listed at first base. And there's already a left-handed power hitting first baseman like in the set tonight, so that would be a little weird.
Yeah. Let's see.
Also,
so go ahead.
I say also probably wouldn't hold a candle to Gehrig either.
Yeah.
Ripken, if Cal Ripken Jr., if his peak card is not playable today in Perfect League, and at least situationally, I will literally riot. I am going to drive to Germany, and I'm going to protest.
So, one thing to note about both the Ripken and Morgan so far is they've had really the wrong shape defensively. And the same is true actually of Jackie a little bit, that they're really error heavy instead of range heavy for the middle infield?
They are, which on the one hand is probably not what you want, but on the other, like as long as they're all this way forever, uh, they don't suffer in the way that they could, right? Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just so difficult to find a shortstop. Probably the Cal will play for a little bit, but I don't think it's a card I'm going to be excited to play.
sounds right. Um, Frankly, uh, all I want out of the Ripken is for it to like be kind of in the same ballpark as the packable Archivon in terms of power level. Right? I don't feel like that's asking too much.
I
No,
think
I'd
it's
be
going to be
happy
the
with
wrong
that.
shape though, because it's going to be a really low eye card, and it's very hard to find a card that's playable and has eye that low.
Well, like it can still be a low eye card and have the eye around like 60, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm
I guess
not saying
that's.
they'll do that, but that they could.
Let's see. Um, let's see who else might be playable. I guess none of the
Uh,
Boggses has really been great.
I don't know that that's entirely true. I think the Boggs have just been overshadowed by other options because third base is so unbelievably stacked. Kind of everywhere. You take that back, Vicarious. You take that back. Um,
Yeah,
what I want from Ripken is the defensive shape of his gold card, except like a little bit better, and the offensive shape of his diamond card, except with like 20 or 30 more eye. That's all. I don't think I'm asking for much.
I
Um,
think they're gonna just add 15 to his BABIP instead. Keep the low eye and think he's playable, but he won't be. But we'll see. Um, let's see.
Again, unrepentant Orioles fan. I was born in '83, so technically they've won a World Series in my lifetime. But like I grew up with Cal Ripken Jr. as the guy on my favorite team, so I will be both me and my inner child will be crushed if they
Yeah.
hold out on me here.
Let's see. The
Third,
out.
yeah, a
I'm
little bit
sorry.
about Boggs. I don't think Boggs is as bad as you think he is. He's just overshadowed everywhere, and at perfect, there really aren't a lot of other what you would consider to be high end um, left-handed third base options, right? Like, is he going to be good enough to play in a platoon with Brooks? That's really hard to predict. But A, not everybody has Brooks. And B, he is left-handed, so maybe there's a niche for him there.
I just can't see it. So Boggs is the toughest card for me to really guess where they're going to go because the shape of the card has changed so much. The gold
Yeah,
card really could play both ways. The diamond card, and it's even a low diamond, really has to be a platoon bat. But I do think in general, it's really hard to construct a league roster where you have two guys that are platooning and only play that position. So if you have Brooks, I think Boggs really has to be better than that, and significantly better than that, maybe, to be able to platoon. There are just too many other places that you want to be able to platoon, or you want to be able to find a multi-position backup or something like that.
I'd say either that or he has to have a good enough bat that you want to DH him.
Yeah, if the bat's that good.
But yeah, I don't know that either of those is especially likely. So From there, you have Larry Walker in right field. I don't know why I'm going through the outfield backwards, but we're doing it.
All right, we'll do it.
Everyone I've talked to has their feeling on Larry Walker is that there has never been a good Larry Walker card, and why is it going to start now? Fair enough. Though I will say that last year's, I think, would have been playable if it had come out, like around Franchise Heroes 1 instead of waiting for Franchise Heroes 3.
Yeah.
It's not that the card was bad; it just came out too late to matter. So maybe he's good, right? Like maybe he is competing with Turkey Stearns for your left-handed right fielder.
Yeah.
Except again, if he's not going to be able to play other positions, I don't think you're going to be able to make that work. And that's been kind of
Maybe
one of the
eligible
things in this set.
He may be eligible at first base. That would not be shocking. Though, of the other bits of eligibility, first base is probably the one that helps you the least. So, yeah, I mean, fair. Richie Ashburn in center field is either going to be amazing and displace Cool Papa Bell or be unplayable. And I don't think there's a lot of in between.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, the big thing is he has exactly the right shape for this meta. The card may not end up being that good just in terms of power, but if the card has enough power, then that's one of the cards that could be in the meta.
Yep. Obviously it depends on a lot of things, but you expect him to be good defensively. You expect him to run the bases very well. And you expect that he should at least be trainable in the corners, which is important for the reason that Charles was just talking about. So I think that if I were designing this card set, knowing that Dishnet is the one that has to feel these things unto the world, I would make Ashburn the best card in this set and be giggling through the entire show tonight. But that's
genius. That's why he blocked you.
There you go.
That's probably it. That's probably it. He knew I was just going to harass him about that. He probably read like that slide and is just so salty he doesn't want to even talk about it. Left field is Minnie Minoso. That card could be sneaky good, especially if it gets like third base eligibility.
Yeah, at least if it gets a few extra positions. If it could be a third, left, center, right, maybe it's playable, but just none of those cards have had a good shape.
Yeah. I don't think we touched on what PTCS 1750 said in chat a little while back, but I like the idea of Pete Rose as a topper. That's basically just like the Pete Rose card from last year's Franchise Heroes. Right.
Yeah,
at this time of the game, you can play him at first base or in the corners of the corner outfield, or maybe even third base, and it's like fine.
I think Kidneys was suggesting Zobrist to, a fun utility guy would be a really cool topper.
For sure. So then you have pitchers, and the pitchers aren't going to be eligible at any other position, so I don't even know why we're going to talk about them. We've just covered that those guys are unplayable, so let's move now.
No, the pitcher. Well, I think the
Kevin Brown will be stupid because every Kevin Brown has been stupid. Unless like a bad Kevin Brown card today would be the biggest troll of OOTP 23 so far.
Truly,
right? Like
I have sky high expectations for Kev.
I don't know much about. I don't have strong feelings about the silver card, but the bronze card is nuts in the formats where it plays, and the gold card is absurd. And like, are we going to talk about the gold Kevin Brown in low diamond pitching?
I'm pretty sure
does
we
he show up?
Yeah, he's a decent option. Yeah.
The 90 is it 99 Kevin Brown? The diamond Kevin Brown is nuts, right? Like as not quite like top meta perfect league level pitcher, but he's not so far away. So a Hundo Kevin Brown should be just delicious. I have high hopes for Vita Blue.
Really? That
Um,
I have not seen any playable Vita Blue even
I'm
close so far.
I'm ready for them to be dashed, but like last year's 100, like Perfect Vita Blue was very playable when it came out. Um, and if as a neutral, like as someone that wasn't playing in a particular park and had particular like needs for his own team, if you asked me, what does the game need right now for balance? Like how do we improve the game, just generally speaking? Exactly, Vicarious. We need like viable left-handed starting pitching. Um, like Tannehill and Kuzman are impossible to get, and David Price is hard to get and also splitty enough that you can't pitch him. Like you have to be careful starting that guy. And then it's just downhill from there. So if we get, I don't know, someone that's say the fourth best left-handed starting pitcher in the game behind, or I'm sorry, third best. Yeah, like someone between Royce and Kuzman,
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
I just don't think Vita Blue is going to be that pitcher. I think the best shot at that would be having a lefty pitcher as a topper. And that's really what I'm hoping for is maybe a Randy
I'm gonna
Johnson
hold
or
on to my
something.
hope. I'm gonna hold on to my hope. I don't think there's a reason he couldn't, other than that, as you've pointed out, none of the Vita Blues released so far this year have been particularly interesting. But you know,
it'd be great to get a lefty topper tonight. Just again to have one more startable left-handed pitcher.
we'll get to that in just a moment. What the other two cards we haven't talked about yet are Papelbon and Tug McGraw. I would expect them both to be playable, but not like exciting.
I'm still surprised that you're expecting so many to be playable. I think typically with a set like this, you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 cards that really are in the meta.
Well, so I think we're maybe disagreeing a little bit on how to define playable, right? I think there will be teams in Perfect League for whom it will be correct to play those cards due to lack of better options.
Yeah, good enough.
Like if everybody had all the cards, yeah, I think there might be 2 or 3 tonight that play. But if you're willing to back off a little bit and look at cards that will show up, and you'll look at the teams and be like, yeah, that's probably right. I expect there to be a good number of those tonight.
Yeah, it's cards that you can win with in Diamond, for sure.
Yeah, like cards. I would say cards in like the second tier of the metagame.
I don't think the relievers will even be there. Maybe Tug's a little better shape. Papelbon really hasn't been anywhere close. Even the 89 Papelbon was useless, right? For gold.
I am hoping that Papelbon is like Armando Benitez with a little bit more control.
Yes, and just to, kind of a foreshadowing of our low diamond discussion, I've been pretty underwhelmed with the pure relievers this year. Most seems like there's more balance this year, as there usually is, I guess, of more starters being in the pen rather than guys who are actually listed on the card as a pure reliever.
Yeah, that's true for a number of reasons. One of which is that they're just not rating relievers in a way where they play commensurately with how they would in real life.
I think that brings us to low diamond.
Yeah,
that's kind of that.
Yeah, so we'll see where this goes for sure.
A quick 30-second speculation on toppers. I think the Pete Rose.
I'm starting the timer.
Neat. I think Zobrist would be super neat. We did have a conversation about like the game needs left-handed pitching the most. So what if they decide to jam another one in there? And there are some really compelling candidates. We could get a Glavin that could be super cool.
Glavin
Um,
was going to be my pick for kind of what's missing, like a control heavy.
Glavin, a lefty Grove would be cool. Who is the other one? There's another like old timey.
Eddie Plank, is that who you're thinking
Yes,
of? Yeah,
that's
you're
exactly
thinking
what
of
I'm
Eddie
thinking of.
Plank.
Eddie Plank.
I think
Steve
you
Carlton
want a
would be good.
movement and control heavy guy. So like Carlton and Grove, I
Yes.
think are the wrong shape for the meta right now. If they wanted to
Sure.
release another great Epirixie, I could see that working.
Mm-hmm.
Rixie would be good as well. But yeah, I would love to see Tom Glavin.
And Aroldis, we haven't had an Ultra Aroldis this year.
Oh, you mean one where it comes out, we look at the numbers and we go, oh man, there isn't a blue that's blue enough for that. And then the card is
Yeah.
useless anyway.
Get 200 stuff. Let's hit it.
200
sure,
stuff
give-
and 20 control.
Yes.
I think the hilarious option would be a peak Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
I could totally see that.
So I mean, they do have a habit of like hyping up these like big topper reveals and then having to be a player that makes you go like, wait, really? That guy? And Mad Bum would be just like the perfect, slightly out of left field choice.
I think that's fun too. I won't criticize that because it's cool having. Yeah.
I love being surprised. Like I don't want that to sound like a complaint, right? Like
Yeah.
I
I think I've said this before, but I think it's really fun having different cards be a little bit better or worse this year. Like Ichiro doesn't rule the meta.
Anyone that makes me go, wait, what? That's exciting.
If I could pick one that actually really fits well and kind of would be a bit different, I'd love to see a Buster Posey topper.
Oh, that'd be cool. Give us a good, like this man just retired, and let's all remember how awesome he is, Kurt. I also wouldn't mind like a peak Yachty.
Yeah, I can
since
see
he's
that.
retiring this year, I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't think it would play very well because the bat will be a little light, but it could be a cool option. Are we really starting on relief pitching today?
Or a peak Pujols? I could see that. No, I just had an empty thing up. Oh yeah, let's Let's actually talk about Low Diamond since we did kind of promise.
Let's please.
All right. So maybe first off, just the real quick overview. So typical ratings for Low Diamond. Actually, the bat's pretty flat across the board at this point. Not too distinctive of a shape. Pretty much 80 is good, right? The I's a little bit higher. The Void K is a little bit lower. And then on the pitching side, movement over 100 is really kind of what you need to be in the Low Diamond meta. A little bit lower stuff and a little bit higher control, but really it's still sort of like a low, high, maybe medium shape. And overall, I guess the numbers are pretty balanced on the pitching side, right? About 2/3 righty, 65% right-handed, 35% left-handed. And the batters are more of a 50-50 split with, yet again, basically no switch hitters this year, right?
Yeah, it's not too far off from what we see with like Gold. Just slightly better pitching, slightly more balanced with batters.
I think there are a lot more switch hitters in Gold, but that might just be because literally every center fielder in Gold is a switch hitter.
Yeah. I think the other theme that we're probably gonna keep coming back to in the discussion tonight. So Low Diamond's one of these things where, at least by reputation, it feels like it should be a very expensive, very whale-heavy format. And I think it's actually easier to get into than Silver at the moment. Just in terms
of... I would totally agree.
Yeah.
If you're willing to put your fingers in your ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you when we talk about Ken Griffey Jr., yes, 100% with you.
Okay,
yeah, we'll talk about Griffey, but he's not, he's absolutely not necessary to win.
Sure.
He's a very good card, but I think, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to Griffey.
Okay, so
Yeah, like most of the expensive cards, what you would consider expensive in low diamond, again, outside of Griffey, are what in the like 20 to 30K range. Is that fair these days?
Maybe, yeah, again, I think this is the same time when I was on for the gold stream. It was right before the diamond Build of Legends were released. So there might be some upward prices for some of these historical diamonds that have been really cheap after tonight. But it probably, I would expect prices to not settle in more than like 30K for some of those. But
In the tournament edition cards, like the good low diamond tournament edition cards are cheaper than the good silver and gold tournament edition cards.
yeah, that's kind of wild. Yeah.
Right. Like
the thing is,
there's no Pedro Guerreros here. There's no like Hojo here.
well, there is Pedro Guerrero, and it's just Pedro Guerrero. Like he's still really good. Even at low diamond.
Sure. You know what I mean, though. Like,
yeah. No, yeah, there's really no candidates like that, and I would say too, it's just a bit more of a flat range, especially in pitching. The difference between your top 10 guys and your top 20 guys is not really a huge difference. There's a lot of options that are good enough. It's not quite as unbalanced as it can be in gold and silver, where there are cards that are just a mile beyond anything else.
yeah, there's several cards in those metas where if you don't have the card, you're just giving up 2 wins per tournament or something ridiculous. And here, I think the gap's a lot smaller, except Griffey.
And I will say, Griffey was like that more too, and I'd say now, I mean, the low diamond Richie Ashburn is better in every way except that he doesn't hit home runs, which obviously is a big difference. But it's really not as much of a downgrade now as you might
there's
think.
There's no reason you can't build your team around Ashburn instead of building it around Griffey.
Before Ashburn came out, Griffey was definitely more top heavy, as there weren't any other good options in that same
I think
vein,
I'm going to make the case for a couple other options, but let's do that when we get to center.
Yeah.
So,
Ludlud, I also am interested to see how much worse Dopey is compared to Griffey.
Because I think the other thing that I found interesting here is this is the first one of these we've done where we're going to see the data and model really disagree a bit. And it'll be interesting to kind of think about what's going on. There's a little bit less data here over a longer period of time, but at the same time, maybe it means the model's not quite picking up on what should be going on in the meta.
Yeah, this is great. I love arguing.
So yeah, why don't we start with some catchers?
Sure.
It only took us 45 minutes to get to catchers tonight.
Let's have a chat about Brian Downing, shall we?
All right. So yeah, according to the model, the best catcher by a really wide margin is Brian Downing. That's a 1 WAR per 100 plate appearances. Is that?
Yeah, that's believable.
That's what it says.
I mean, it's a very small sample size because there are 16 Brian Downings?
16 of them, or
8?
Yeah,
I think there are 8 of them, right?
It was the low diamond award. The top 2 were perfect.
Okay,
so
then
3, 4 with high diamonds, 5 through 8.
Yeah. Okay, there should be 16 of them. So
I bought Brian Downing. I bought Brian Downing like minutes after the tournament's finished for, I want to say I paid 80K for that card, and that is by far the best deal I've gotten all year on anything. That is how I feel about Brian Downing.
I think
it's a great card.
I have Brian Downing as the best catcher in the game right now. I don't mean the best low diamond catcher in the game. I mean the best catcher in the game.
He is right there with the Platinum Pudge.
All of the data in our low diamond data set so far, there's 3 teams that have been playing Downing. So if you have a Downing and you're not playing low diamond, I would definitely suggest you get in there.
Yeah, the only reason I'm not playing low diamond is that it doesn't fire often enough, and maybe after we sell people on it, we can get together and get some quicks going.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the Yogi Berra problem. No one goes there anymore because it's too crowded.
Yep. That's how it is.
Definitely Downing's playable, and definitely if anyone feels like selling a Downing, let me know. For us mere mortals who don't have a Downing, Hank Severid, Del Crandall. So this is actually nice because Crandall in particular, essentially everybody has from the live missions.
Yep.
So that's a real easy choice.
And Severid plays. That's another one of these cards that will play fine on your perfect team, kind of regardless of what tier you're in. Like, he won't set the world on fire in Perfect League, but no one's going to point and laugh at you for playing him either.
Yeah, I think Vicarious, that's a good point. And actually, I'm a little surprised that they have 16 team versions of, say, the Iron, which is easy to fill, and they haven't thought about doing that for some of the higher ones that are tougher.
It's actually a really good thought. Like, we should reach out to Nico and see what's possible there.
Yeah, I think a 16 team low diamond would just fire a lot more often, and then it would be easy to jump in something.
And high diamond too. I haven't played that at all.
Yeah, I feel like high diamond is usually the least played format.
That makes sense. So the model here, one of the three. The model likes Crandall. I guess it would. Sorry, the data. I mean, the data would really like Downing if we had a little bit more data on him.
Stanley.
Yeah.
So Mike Stanley is another one of those, like, yes, this card is a gold card, but don't be embarrassed playing it on your perfect team.
Yep, absolutely plays up, mostly from the bat. I mean, the defense is a little below average, but
yeah,
makes up for it.
Defense is okay,
yeah.
But my man rakes.
Yeah, and I think this is another place where the model still believes in sort of catcherability above all else. And the data just say, no, you can actually get away without that this year. The data really seem to think that as long as you have a decent catcherability, just go with the bat. Yeah,
and if you see Crandall's, well, I guess you'll show the winners, but Crandall is the most winning one. Probably no surprise because he's over there on the left already.
42,000 plate appearances.
Pop him up there.
He's been around. He's been around for a while, but beyond that, it's pretty close between people who've won with Severide, Stanley, Steinbach. There's not a whole lot. It's kind of different sides of the same coin as far as catchers go.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So, okay. Warbot simply says, well, of course you have every card in the game. Play Brian Downing everywhere you can.
Maybe don't play him in left field, but...
No. Well, I think that's why the card's only 93, is because he's rated as a left fielder where the bat doesn't really play instead of as a catcher, which he really is.
Yeah, he's a very good, perfect catcher masquerading as a 93 left fielder.
Yeah. So for the budget picks this time, the budget for low diamond is going to be a little higher than some of the other ones we've talked about just because, the quick sell value is 4K. But we're still trying to find cards that generally either you should have available if you're playing low diamond for missions or something like that, or at least they would be reasonably cheap if you wanted to go out and buy them. So in this case, it's pretty simple. People are winning just fine with Del Crandall. It's a perfectly good defensive option. He's even playing in some league rosters, and he's, about a factor of 100 cheaper than Brian Downing.
Yeah, and I think you can, even though Atlanta is kind of one of the more expensive one, it's might not even be 4K to finish the live mission if you just...
Would you rather fight one Brian Downing sized Del Crandall or 100 Del Crandall sized Brian Downings?
Let me look up how big were they?
So what are we actually running here? I don't play a lot of low diamond. But in my build, so I'm running both Severin and Crandall, but Hank's my starter both ways when available.
Brian Downing is he was 5'10", 170. I think I could take him.
Yeah, I could probably just sit on him. I'm a large person.
Dale Crandall was 6'1", 180, so a little bit tougher cookie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, Awaken G, I think that's a good point, that the live mission cards have just gotten a lot easier because now you're picking 30 out of 50 or something instead of 30 out of 32.
Yeah, should be the first thing everyone does, really.
Yep.
And yeah, not too much to say about my choices there. Besides, I don't have Brian Downing, so that's what I got.
Are we actually at the point that you can do like a Hank Aaron speed run in a couple hours yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if people have said that.
They did announce that the tournament reward cards after Duffy would be available the next time there was a revamp of tournament rewards. But they said that a month ago, and there's been no further noise. So, can't give you any TA on that.
I could see it happening this week because we'll be having a new PTCS little season here of 5 weeks. So it's possible. I'm holding out hope.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Would love to get my hands on one of those.
All right. Right. First base. So, let's see. Yeah, here we go. That's first base. So the model here actually says, yeah, gold cards are just fine. Moral's great. The Pedro Guerrero, as you said, of the low diamond format is in fact just Pedro Guerrero. Both Moral and Guerrero are winning, 1 out of every 9 tournaments or something like that.
I'm a little surprised to see Moral up there. I understand why.
He gets on base. It's Moneyball.
Exactly.
He has the highest in the observed data. He has the highest OBP of anyone by 11 points. Second is Downing.
So, just again, I don't play this format really, but I would have expected the power on Jimmy Fox to be worth more than it looks like it is.
I think partly it's a question of, how many lefties, because Fox is a little bit of a splitty card and Moral's eye plays both ways.
That's fair.
Well, I think Fox isn't too splitty. I think a lot of people are probably just running him full time at first because there's not too many good platoon options. So he's probably, if he were just purely a righty platoon, he would probably be seeing much better numbers in the observed.
Let's see the observed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Moral, of course. I thought you were just going to say you're not convinced by Moral because you see him as a second and third baseman.
I don't have the instruction for third base defense that your team apparently does.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out in the observed data by WAR, Moral is 4th, very close behind those 3. So yeah,
and also that Mickey Vernon. That Mickey Vernon is probably as a platoon bat. He's incredibly splitty, but he's an incredible bat one way.
Yep. And Hank Greenberg's not too far behind either. Still a good option that plays up there too.
Yep. Yeah, that's something I try to point out every time we wind up talking about a cap format where, like a low diamond cap or a diamond cap or whatever. Hank Greenberg, surprisingly close to Jimmy Fox.
Yeah, and there is a low diamond daily cap, the non-live cap, where Greenberg's a perfectly good option for that for sure.
Yeah,
he's you get option
for build points. So,
for what it's worth, the model. I didn't mention a catcher, a couple of the other options. So 4th in the catcher model was Al Lopez, the Louis Santop, who's also a lefty bat, and then Buster Posey, and then Stanley. In a couple of the gold options, and Bailey, Steinbach. So at first base, just missing the top three, we've got the limited edition McGriff, which is a platoon bat, again, is kind of an even better option. And then Harry Davis, and then if you really want a cap bat, how about the 81 overall Gil Hodges?
Wow.
Here, I can.
Yeah, no one's playing him. That's an interesting choice.
No, here I can. I'll just put him up for a second to show you what he looks like. So it's kind of a funny shaped bat because it's a little bit lower in BABIP.
Yeah, no, it did take me a lot to get off of Hank Greenberg. Card's just excellent.
Yeah, and Greenberg and even Fox are so cheap to get now that it's shouldn't be anything keeping you from running those.
No, I think you can pretty much pick those up. So, all right. What do we got? Well, if we're looking at a platoon, I think this is where a card like McGriff really makes a lot of sense. And so does Mickey Vernon if you want an easier to get option, right? The McGriffs, are any even on the market? I don't.
Is Vernon really easier to get than Fred McGriff?
No, there are at least McGriffs on the market, it looks like. So. Yeah, it looks like McGriff's actually still available.
It's a conversation we have a lot, right? Like, Fred McGriff is limited to 100, but Mickey Vernon's a tournament reward. So, has Vernon been available enough that he's as common as Fred McGriff? And I'm not sure the answer is yes.
Especially, yeah, because it's a low diamond, so it's that much more difficult to get.
Yeah, that's your 3-4 card in a weekly, or your runner-up card maybe in a daily draft.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to get a McGriff and try playing him.
I tell you what, if I ever get around to building a low diamond team, I will do that.
But
yeah, I think I'm saving my points for other things right now, but otherwise, I would definitely take a shot at a McGriff.
I opened a McGriff. Very exciting. Not as exciting as the Josh Harrison I opened last night. Yes.
Josh Harrison does not appear in our third base slide for low diamond.
Could you look and see how far down he is on the list? Don't. The answer is very.
It might take me a while.
Yeah, I think.
Right. Let's see. Jimmy Fox is actually on 91% of rosters, I think, just because the availability, but also because it's a really good card versus lefties. You know, I'm still running him in league, actually, as a platoon bat.
Yep, he's just pretty much the best bat.
So, and I think also he's a really good budget option just because of the way you can get him through the live missions. So.
Is that who you've got as your choice then?
So I'm actually playing a platoon at the moment. So I'm playing a Vernon and Morrill platoon.
No, spicy.
If you just take a look at that Vernon bat against righties, and you can see why.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. If I had one, I would definitely be wanting to experiment with that.
I think the main
but
problem.
I do have to.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, from a roster construction standpoint, I think Fox is one of the least worst to not platoon. So it's if you end up with extra space, obviously go for it. But if you're trying to sneak in platoons otherwhere, it might be more beneficial. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind a little bit more power on Morrill or something just to compete with Fox because the shape's completely different. But I just think that the Vernon bat's so good and there's so many righties that I'm willing to use a spot on the platoon bat. And Morrill, like I said, I am willing to run Morrill at second and third as much as that can cause other issues.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, man.
but
Works for me.
Fox is also a bat that I think needs to be in there somewhere.
Mhm.
So there's one question here that we've not addressed. Is McGriff better than McCovey?
Oh, one
I
way
I
think
don't I don't
I think
remember what the
so.
low diamond McCovey looks like.
he has the pretty low eye, I think, is probably why your model's liking McGriff better. McCovey has good power stats, but pretty below average on base.
McCovey is like Turbo Jim Gentile.
Yeah, and he's very slow, which always hurts
The other
the
thing,
war.
which maybe doesn't matter all that much, but occasionally is useful, is McGriff. Here, I'll just put this back up. McGriff is actually an excellent defensive first baseman as well.
Good point.
So probably first base defense is worth less than pretty much every position out, you can look at otherwise. But yeah, even so, there is some good defense there.
Sounds fair. Who we got? Who's Warbot like for second base? This
All
I'm
right.
curious to see.
Second base. So this is again kind of the point where, as you can see, we get some different answers in the model and the observed data. So the model just says, Toby Harrah is still excellent. And I think that's
We
true.
saw that coming.
He's got 108 eye. He's got 125 eye on his good side, right?
Oy.
You're just not going to get Warbot to take Toby Harrah out of a meta.
Red Pfeffer and some really good gold cards. I guess that checks out and speaks to how not great the low diamond second base situation is.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, and the observed.
Like who else you got there? Like CJ Abrams, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, there's since the platinum set, we got Jeff Kent.
Oh, that's
who's
true.
also very good. He's, maybe a little bit better than Pfeffer. Pretty equal, I guess, in different ways. Slightly different shape. Kind of depends on the rest of your team, I guess. And McManus is a good card. I got no
Sounded
problem with
so apologetic when you said that. Like,
that.
this guy is fine, I guess.
he's I feel he's very overlooked. I mean, I was playing him in Perfect as my VL second baseman, and it's fine.
Yeah, you were playing some real nonsense in Perfect though.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that says.
I finished
I see
500.
I see
So-
Bluebird says that Toby's going for 7 WAR in Diamond here. And I think that's
goodness.
plausible. It's just such a good bat with that eye, playing 3 positions.
I guess I'm just apologetic about it because Toby Harrah really overshadows everything else.
Yeah, so I guess he again actually does have higher WAR than the observed options, but just misses the cutoff, right? Was it 1500 that you used actually?
I think he's 2000, but that's funny that he's right underneath. Yeah.
Okay. And he's winning 1 out of every 8 tournaments, and then Sandberg is an even bigger winner here, with sort of 0.
Yeah, it's
data.
not being used very often, but when he is, it's on a good team. So it's always a good thing to look out and keep an eye for who's the shark play.
Yeah, I still think Harrah is a good option. I like the Pfeffer card as well. Let's see. And then if you're going to platoon, then Harrah, with 125 eye versus left, that's kind of always what Warbot likes doing. But versus right, there really isn't a left-handed second baseman in the meta. And there Warbot does think Pfeffer comes out a little bit ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The strength of Pfeffer is he's very, very neutral split.
Yeah.
So I think if we go to my choice, I'm pretty sure that's who I've got. My team.
Let's see.
Yes, it is.
Let's see. Pfeffer's the biggest winner He's being played the most often, really, of anybody here. For a budget option, this is a little bit trickier because Hera is difficult to get. Pfeffer's actually not particularly cheap. Sandberg's difficult to get, right? So this is a spot where it's a little bit difficult to find, any sort of really good budget option. But it turns out there's actually an excellent one. So in the model, Kent would be fourth, but he's also a diamond from the Platinum Series and expensive. So that's going to be difficult. The model's willing to play Morrill as well, sort of fifth. So if you go down to sixth in the model, George Grantham actually does okay.
GG, he's back again.
He is, and you know what George Grantham does?
He gets on base.
He gets on base.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing in the observed data about old George.
No, but I think there should be more. And not only does he get on base, he's actually a left-handed second baseman who gets on base.
Oh wait, no, I lied. He has I've got 265 plate appearances of George Grantham in Low Diamond, and so there's been 6 teams, or there's 6 instances of him in the data, and 2 of those he was on a winning team. So that's a third success rate.
So, right so you're saying George Grantham's actually the biggest winner in this format?
Yeah, I'm saying I think you're right.
All right. So if you want a really cheap Low Diamond card, pay a few hundred points for George Grantham.
Yeah,
I think that's the conclusion.
I'm no comment.
Again, another thing just to note, to preface about this data, it's been several weeks probably since he's been used in a Low Diamond tournament. Since this is a less common format, this is going back to number, I think, 20 in the best of sevens. I've joined most of them, and we're up to like 83 now. So this data is even predating like the first Platinum release. So, if the model's looking at the current state of things right now, there might be some differences in what's gotten better or worse, given the cards available.
Yeah, that's fair. And realistically, if you have Hera available, you're not going to run Grantham anyway.
But there's not anyone better than Grantham, so...
No, it's interesting that he's still playable. And I think this just kind of speaks again to the value of Eye as being one of the things that really doesn't degrade as you go up. The typical control of a pitcher in Silver is not that different than in Low Diamond.
Which is one of the things that you learn pretty quickly when you're building cap rosters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also not a ton of high stuff guys in Low Diamond either, so his main weakness of striking out isn't a total deal breaker.
Yeah, I think we saw it was something like 68 stuff as a typical rating for a Low Diamond pitcher right now. The movement's really high, so power is getting nerfed a bit. All right, so who are we actually running? So I'm running Pfeffer here. And you're also running Pfeffer with Kent, it looks like?
Yeah, and again, I'm kind of split. I like them both pretty equally, but I need 2 guys to play second, and no one else is really a good option. So I think McManus could be put him in for Kent instead, maybe, or kind of 6 one, half dozen of the other.
And I'm running Pfeffer with Morrill as my backup because Morrill really is a second baseman if you need him to be, I think. So.
Yeah, why not?
All right, well, we'll move on to Morrill's true position. So,
shortstop,
third base.
So it would be shortstop. He would be too good, so they don't let you play him there.
It's true. This is what they've taken from us.
Yep. Third base, right. So third base, the model, perhaps not too surprisingly at this point, still really likes Toby Harrah. And also Eddie Matthews. So a couple of gold cards up there, and then Darrell Evans. If we go a little further down the list, then John McGraw, the newly released Doug DeCinces, Billy Werber, Pedro Guerrero is playable, the build a lineup Boggs, Sal Bando even maybe.
Graw is
So-
also very recently released.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how that McGraw does. So I've exported. He's been used in one best of 7 so far, and he put up a 625 on base percentage in 16 plate appearances. So eventually that'll regress a little bit, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the model loves McGraw's eye. So the defense just doesn't quite work, and I think that's the only reason that the model isn't just sort of saying start McGraw at third. But the eye is, of course, exactly what we want.
The Doug DeCinces. DeCinces?
I think it's DeCinces.
DeCin? Doug DeCin.
Let's
Doug
see what the internet
DeCinces.
has to say.
He didn't make the cutoff for PAs, but I got about 900 on him now, and he's looking pretty good.
It's Doug DeCinces.
Sensei, that's what it is. I was close.
Okay. Right. All right. So here's the observed data. So Evans is up there, and then surprisingly for me, actually the Gold Brooks is in there.
Yeah, that one's really surprising to me too. But I think maybe just using him as a platoon, purely maybe with Evans, he is a really good BL bat. There's just not too many other great third base options.
It's just even if you're going to run a platoon, I mean, I'd run someone like Werber instead, I think.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, to me, it seems like Pie Trainer should even be better, but
Sal Bando's also playable and up there, especially one way.
Yeah, that one surprised me too. But it's 2,400 plate appearances. It's not insignificant.
How much data do you have on Morrill at third?
Oh, he had 900 plate appearances. He's putting up less WAR than Brooks, but he beats him by about 60 points of on base percentage. So
okay, Sewell doesn't show up at third in the model. Really, only at short. Is he in the data somewhere?
Yeah, he is. He's one of the most frequently used, but he's a little bit below Morrill. I've got him at maybe the 10th best, reasonably. If you were doing a platoon, I would personally prefer Evans, but he's totally usable.
I think so. Yeah, and so Warbot's ideal platoon here is just Matthews and Harrah, and you can see why, right? Matthews really has to be platooned if you're going to play him, but that's a bat you can play in league if you're willing to platoon your third baseman.
Oh yeah, I would say the thing with Sewell too is I think the build a lineup Boggs, the low diamond Boggs is just kind of better than him, slightly in everything. So.
So we're talking about the diamond Boggs being, well, certainly the diamond Boggs seems to be better than the gold Boggs. Maybe only by a little, but I think still pretty clearly better.
Yeah, barely better with the bat. Much better in defense, though. The OOTP WAR calculation is pretty funky for third base, too. It definitely gives them a lot. It places a lot of premium on third base defense, and I'm not really sure that it matters quite as much as the engine, or not the engine, but I guess the stat calculation thinks it does.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Eddie Matthews also, so that's funny. Here too, Eddie Matthews is just not winning. And that's been my experience. I finally managed to get one after looking for several weeks, put him in basically all of my builds, and he's basically clubhouse cancer Eddie Matthews. I think
Yeah. I mean, his bat checks out. He's got good stats. Just probably defense, and I think really it seems this year really splitty guys are having a much harder time. Just not getting as many good matchups.
Maybe, yeah, but in a meta that's 65% righties, you'd think he's going to be on the strong side enough to justify it. And it's actually the same thing here, right? In War, he's doing fine. I think that's been the same thing in my tournament builds. Is Eddie Matthews does great, and somehow the team as a whole is losing.
Yep.
So
the strikeouts are killing the momentum.
there you go. Right. Your biggest winner. Well, there are a lot of different third basemen being used, so it's only on 37% of your rosters, but it's Darrell Evans. I guess that makes sense just with how frequently he's being played also, right?
Yeah, he's been around for a long time too. Werber is second. I think Evans and Werber is a pretty common platoon and has been since the start.
So as for a budget pick, this one's a little tricky because most of the top guys are still either a bit expensive because they were newly released or they're tournament cards or something like that. I think a perfectly reasonable option here is just to build a lineup Wade Boggs. And that's perhaps who we should have picked. I think it's maybe worth here actually just highlighting that you can play Sal Bando just fine here too. And, he's still a little bit behind the best in the observed data, but he's quite playable and certainly cheap.
Yeah, him and I guess Sewell would be worth a mention too, as someone who's still pretty cheap to get. It's the AL Central Live 20 topper, I think, so it's really not hard to get.
Let's see. Ned Yost. I'm trying to see where Yost ends up in the model.
Ned Yost. Is he even the
do you mean the Eddie? Oh, you mean the silver Eddie Yost? I really like the bat there, but I don't think he quite plays this high. A third baseman that I do think you could actually play, although more as a DH here, is still not crazy maybe to play Bob Bailey here either.
Nope, absolutely. The 75.
Yes.
Double B, Killer B, Bob Bailey.
Not the 74. We will laugh at you if you play the wrong Bob Bailey.
That's the only thing we'll laugh at you about.
Yeah.
I might laugh at you if you're a comedian.
Yeah. All right. So who are we actually playing here? So this is what I'm doing is I'm running Hera partly at second and partly at third in kind of a mixed platoon. I am running Clubhouse Cancer Eddie Matthews the other way.
I do like the Matthews Hera platoon in gold. It tickles me a little bit to see it in low diamond. Because it's just sort of like a look at me. I have an extravagance of riches.
Yeah, I think it just works because it's only half a platoon because I get to play Hera both ways.
Sure.
Right. What it's really saying is that I have a right-handed second baseman and a left-handed third baseman, essentially. And that's the platoon.
Fair.
Yep, and I've got the old reliable combo here of Evans and Werber.
Is it Evber or is it Wervins?
Wervins. We're Wervin. I'm thinking I might have to get my hands on the new Doug DeCinces and try him out instead of Werber because he's got just as good, if not almost just as good defense and probably a better bat shape for this. So that might change soon. But
remember,
if I had Hera, I would play with him.
Remember, this is an educational show. If you take nothing else with you today, remember it's Doug DeCinces.
Doug DeCinces. Wax on, wax off.
I also learned that one.
And I would definitely play DeCinces if I didn't have kind of Hera and Matthews here. I love the shape of that card. It's got the defense you want. It doesn't have 125 I versus lefties. That's the problem.
Yeah. That's the problem with every card. Except one.
All right. Shortstop. So, any guesses who the model thinks is the top shortstop in low diamond?
There are, I think, two real options. Is it Simba or is it the other guy
Oh
whose
no,
name I
no,
can never remember?
it's of course Toby Hara.
My bad. I keep thinking that defense will matter in these models one day, and it's just
Well, I'm surprised to see Kevin Elster so high up there too.
Well, I think defense does matter in the models. It's just the bat is so incredibly good, right?
sure.
Sewell, that is the lowest winning percentage I think that I've ever seen in the data set here for a card that ends up on the board.
Yeah, he's been used a lot, not successfully anymore, really.
Well, I guess it's just because it's an easy low diamond card to get. So a lot of builds from managers that maybe don't have a complete deck of cards yet are still going to feature Sewell, but not some of these others.
Yeah, I think he's second most common after Fox, who's huge, but yeah.
This Elster's
The Observed.
Yeah, this Elster's
Yeah,
interesting as well. Yeah, so Hera, Elster really the model loves them, and they're nowhere close to the board in the observed, right? Do you have
I
any
don't like
data on
that at
Elster
all.
even? It's probably not a
Yeah, I
lot,
have
right?
290, no, 350 plate appearances here. And his bat is worse than Simba's in that so far. And his defense is not as good. So I just don't endorse that at all.
The defense is definitely going to be worse than Simba's. Yeah, I guess the bat's maybe a little bit tougher to figure out what to do with, but you definitely see that all the top shortstops here are the ones with huge gloves. So very unlike what the model's giving you, right?
Yeah, I think to me the difference in defense at shortstop is just going to be a lot bigger than second or third, just because they get so many more balls hit towards them. I guess the drop off in the stats ends up being a lot more.
Yeah, I agree, and this is why I'm running Hera between second and third and not looking at him as a shortstop.
Yeah, and I really like Wright. I don't have that card. His bat's a little bit better than Simba, as you can see. I think he's definitely the top choice if you have him.
That being said, if you can only get one, the Simba does play in OOTP era tournaments, which is relevant.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a super handy card. And I mean, obviously, you can use it for the platinum missions. And he's not super expensive because you still need to get another diamond if you get him to finish that mission. I think it's a great
Simba's
card.
win rate 1 out of 8. That's a good point, Mr. Black.
Yeah, he's been pretty much on every roster since he came out. Again, he's a little bit newer to the data than Sewell for one thing, but yeah, just a great card.
I still think there's a huge difference in bats, even between, say, Simba or Wright and Kevin Elster, though. You're paying a lot to get that extra defense because most of the value of Wright and Simba in their bat is actually the avoid K. But if you're that bad at getting hits, you'd actually rather strike out than ground out.
Yeah, it's funny the next options after Wright and Simmons, Hardy, and Granny Hamner is kind of up there with a small sample too. But those guys are all kind of the same prototype. They're all putting up about 300-ish OBP, all good on defense. But the gap is not too far from them to like Cal Ripken and Robin Yount, Mike Young, who have much better bats, but definitely a step down in defense.
Okay. And see, Mike, you win. So we were talking before the stream about whether someone was going to bring up Terry Turner.
Yeah, Terry Turner too.
Yes, the Terry Turner Ellie does play shortstop. He plays, I would say, elite defense at second base and very good defense at shortstop and third.
Was it
Um,
115, 99, and 99, and that's coming from a 91 range.
yeah. So,
No, he's absolutely a good option too. I think.
and
Got
and his
him.
bat is like not as bad as you would think.
No, his I've got 1,400 PAs on him, and his on base is 355 versus Simba's 302. That's kind of a big difference.
Yep. I think Turner's two big advantages are his versatility. Like, there's some players that can play multiple positions for you, and that's nice because, like backup reasons. But Turner's a guy where you're actually kind of happy wherever he's playing, which
Like
is
like
Yeah, and
like
a
it's
lot
John
less.
like
really
John Morrill.
Yeah, like John Morrill, except actually good at defense.
yeah,
Um,
it's
the
worth
other
saying
real
too.
the other real advantage that Terry Turner has is an unbelievable amount of swag.
It's
It's a
true.
cool card. It's really nice art. I like it.
Uh,
The art's
I
great.
went out of
Yeah.
my way. I went out of my way to get one while they were still cheap because I just thought it was the coolest dang card there was. And now I just play him in everything he's eligible for because I want to, and you can't stop me.
And he, and
Yeah,
he can and
one
he, and he
one
can even bunt.
He can bunt.
really well. Yeah,
He runs the bases
one.
fine. Like he's a really good example of a card that does like almost everything at like a B plus or A minus kind of level,
Yeah, no, it's
right?
not really going to be reflected well in the observed stats or the model. Just that kind of versatility that he brings as a roster construction piece.
Yep.
One thing I'll say on personal opinion too, I think since second and short are kind of really weaker offensively than most positions in most formats, it's really, really valuable to have one guy that can back them both up well. I think that's where, like Rabbit, Marinville has a lot of utility like that in gold. Not so much that he's not just that since he's good at second and short, that means you can carry one less second baseman or shortstop on your roster and have a better bat somewhere else.
Right.
Well, the other
It's kind
thing
of
is,
a
yeah.
It
yeah,
gives you more flexibility for pinch hitting also.
yeah. It's been annoying for me constructing rosters and being like, oh man, I have to have two of these guys. like, yeah, Terry Turner's great to solve that problem.
Well, the thing I like
Terry
about,
Terry
go ahead.
Turner is the Pompoloid of low diamond, except he's actually good.
Might be
Mm-hmm.
better than Lloyd.
Got him.
Yeah, the model just doesn't like Glenn Wright's eye. So the model really wants players that are going to get on base. I think that's what it comes down to. So Turner in the model is seventh at short. But then he's also playable at these other positions, and I think that's where it's so valuable because there are just a lot of bats at the low diamond level that you want to platoon. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing I like so much about having Hera on the roster is because Hera can play multiple positions well, it lets me have a platoon where I'm, say, running Eddie Matthews on one side at third base, and then I'm running Pfeffer on the other side at second, or something like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And there's not a real, just kind of open low diamond format right now. But I guess in the SE low diamond, both Harris Turner can play. But that's definitely a big consideration for the bigger like weekly tournaments and stuff where fatigue management is much more important. Having some guys that can rotate in and off the bench in several different ways is invaluable for sure.
Yeah. I think a few other names to mention here. So Hamner comes out fourth in the model. The Hardware Heroes version of Robin Yount. The Platinum Tulo as well, although that really has to be a platoon guy if you're going to run him.
His defense is terrible.
Yeah. The Platinum 89 Bill Dolan, or even the Gold Build a Lineup Ripken is kind of playable here. There's not such a big
Yep.
gap from about, Sewell all the way down. Let's see. Oh, right. If you're going to run a platoon, that's where Hamner becomes, kind of a little bit higher in the list here, just because you get that defense and sort of getting to play him one way works. So Hera and Elster sort of work if you're going to play them both ways. But Sewell's another guy that can play both short and third, so you can platoon him one way and have him back up the other way or something like that, right? As well as Hamner.
Yep. Who's yes, Sewell's
Sure.
probably going to be the winner.
Biggest winner is going to be Sewell, which is funny because he's only winning 1 out of every 44 tournaments.
Yeah,
But
through sheer attrition.
Just brute force, yeah.
just remember, everybody, winning is a counting stat. Right?
So we shouldn't award Joe Sewell the Cy Young Award, is what I'm hearing.
Nope. Although
But
that
he won
would be kind of
37
fun.
games. Yeah, and like 105 starts. It's not that good. All right, who's our shoestring winner here?
Right.
Is it
okay,
also
so
Joe Sewell?
I think Sewell would be a perfectly good shoestring choice, actually.
Is it JJ Hardy?
But I think we should also just highlight Hardy because he's even cheaper than Sewell, and
Dang.
he's just
He's an
really
Oriole.
good.
Gotta give the Orioles a shoestring shout out, right? The Peter Angelos Award.
Fair point. All right, so who are we actually running?
I am currently wearing a Chris Davis shirt. This is my I'm an Orioles fan shirt that I can wear to Fenway, where like I can turn around and show them the name on the back and maybe like get pity instead of beat up.
You're like, see, this is what happens when we spend money. Learned our lesson.
It's just like, look, this is the sort of guy that I root for. So it's cool. I'm harmless. Leave me alone.
Hey, the Orioles are good this year.
It's so weird. It's almost like a generational talented catcher does things to a pitching staff.
So what you're saying is catcher ability matters.
Yeah, I am saying that actually.
Let's see. All right, so who are we actually running here? Yeah, so this is so I actually am running Yount. I just really like the shape of that card. Maybe actually looking at the data, I should be running kind of more of a glove there. Probably both ways. And you're just running Simba, right?
Yeah. What more do you need? Who I have as my backup?
I
think I just have Pfeffer for backup. That's right.
I'm a Sox fan, but I remember Fenway as being pretty harmless except for Yankees games. Although you also get pretty Sox friendly crowds at Camden Yards too most of the time.
I will always remember the moment that when I became a full-on F the Yankees baseball fan. The LCS in 1996. That yes, he was. Yup, watched that one live.
There were actually. I can't say I'm proud of this as a Sox fan, but there were Sox fans that showed up when he was playing in college to heckle him.
Love it.
And I can't say I'm proud of that, but it does show dedication.
There's just not much in the world that to me is more pure than the pettiness of sports fans.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
Wait, hold on. If you were fighting at a stadium in Tampa This can't have been a Rays game because that would mean there were other people in the stands. Football game?
Zing.
The Rays don't play in Tampa either,
No one goes to the
So-
football games either.
right? Don't they? They play in St. Petersburg.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
I mean, it's all Florida. There's going to be some Florida behavior.
No, it's not in Florida. That part of the state is Florida.
Yeah. Oh, right. Outfield. So let's see. So as usual, the model's going to do something a little bit different than the data. So Brian Giles, which I think is probably more of a platoon bat, but the model basically says even if you have to run him both ways, you can go ahead and do it, and he's just fine in left, especially if you want to put Stanton in right.
Yeah, and Giles is one of the best cards in the data for sure by any means. He's one of the few really, really good tournament edition low diamond cards that he's not like super expensive, but kind of rarer.
Makes sense. And then this Abreu, that's another of these limited edition cards that does seem to play here and isn't as expensive as I would have expected, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Abreu in low diamond or at all, really, but it's a really cool card. I like him. So,
and the main reason the model loves him, of course, is the eye. 110 eye versus righties, so especially as a platoon bat, it just works.
Yeah.
I do think if you're going to play someone like Abreu, it should be a platoon bat. Giles probably should be a platoon bat as well, really. And Stanton, maybe even as much as he can play left, I think Stanton's better in right.
Yeah, and that's not so much that he can't play left, but he's better in right, and there's not as many options, so why not,
Yeah, I think if I had both, I'd be playing Giles in left.
Yeah. What's the observed say?
The observed data, well, so we have very little data on, we have a little bit of data on Stanton, but not much in left, I guess, right? Because otherwise with that WAR, he'd be up there.
Yeah, he's almost totally in right, yeah.
And no data on Abreu, it looks like. So yeah, Jethro's an interesting card, and Ducky's also really a platoon bat, and I'm guessing that that's almost all versus lefties that you're seeing there.
Yeah, it has to be. And of course, if we're talking about some of these other options where you don't have to platoon, I think the outfield is always a prime candidate to get those real platoony bats in there when you can.
Yeah, I think so. There's several other bats that are interesting here. I'm going to mention Higginson in a moment because that's a card I'm actually running. Brian Downing does end up in the top 10 here, but if you have Brian Downing, he's a catcher. The Ted Williams that everybody's had since very early on is still very playable here. And again, especially as a platoon bat.
Yeah, his bat is still really great. Most any negative value comes from his fielding and having lead feet, but that even now.
And actually, there's not even a big gap between sort of fourth or fifth on the list and this limited edition Bo, which is a card I really wanted to be good.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about him yet.
Do we actually have any data on Bo?
Curious, I totally forgot about him.
The real question here is where's Oyster?
Right. Oyster is there. We've got a couple of options here.
All right, I'm going to have to run a little bit deeper down the list, I'm afraid.
Oyster and Zisk are the two that I need to know about.
Yeah, I love Zisk. I got him, I pulled him in a pack, so I've been using him for a while. And he's still one of the best bats for sure. Obviously, again, he has lead feet and is not the best fielder, but I think he's a great option.
I'm just kind of going a little bit deeper to see where some of these end up.
Bo's pretty good. I have 600 or so PA on him in low diamonds. Good defense, good bat. Yeah, that's a good card.
Oyster, the model has somewhere around 30th best in left for low diamond. So
So what you're telling me is that he's really a shortstop.
yeah, how do I put this? He's as much of a shortstop as Morrill is a third baseman. So yes.
Yes, there's your all-star infield. Yeah, no, I definitely, I do not hate Bo Jackson in left. I wouldn't want to play him in center or right, but that's a good option.
And Zisk is kind of more similar to Ducky overall, except that Ducky as a platoon bat just is so much better than Ducky both ways.
Yeah, Zisk is pretty new. He's pretty good against right-handed pitching. The split is not very large. Power against right-handers is such at a premium that totally playable that way. I was using it that way for a while.
Yeah, I think it's just in this format there are so many really good lefty platoon bats. In fact, if you ask Warbot how to platoon, and you can see just what Giles looks like against righties. That's a difficult combination to compete with in a two-way bat, at least at low diamond. Let's see, biggest winner. Let's see, the biggest winner is just the Ted Williams, and this is still a really good card, even if you have to play him both ways. This is very much a playable card. Right, you can see in terms of war, it's a little bit behind the others, but it's very much in the realm of it's playable, right?
Yeah, bat wise especially.
I still think you'd rather platoon him if you can.
If by especially you mean entirely, I'm with you.
Oh yeah. I'm saying like his it's not a big drop off in the bat, but
no.
In fact,
we're also going to wholeheartedly endorse Ted as a budget pick. You can very much build a competitive roster with Ted Williams in left here.
Sure.
And if you can somehow sneak in like the other diamond Ted.
Oof.
Yeah, if you find a way to cheat the system, you'll get banned.
But you'll win some tournaments first. All right. So who are we actually running here? So as I mentioned, I'm running Higginson, who also really needs to be a platoon bat. So I think those numbers are two-way, but as a one-way player, I think he's even that much stronger. And then
I forgot my choice is fun. That's my most valuable card that I have on this team.
That's a really good option. So Pedro does end up. Let me see. Yeah, Pedro ends up sort of tied for sixth in the model with Ted Williams, except that you can run Pedro both ways, I think, better than Ted both ways.
Yeah, Pedro, again, is just great from a roster construction standpoint because, just the way it is now, he's starting full-time for me in left, but he can play first. He can probably, back up third. He can play right field okay. Again, it's just it's a nice card to have. But he is very expensive, so if you don't win him, it's kind of hard to come by.
And that's a good point, Vicarious, that Higginson in perfect drafts, because that's an even more right-handed meta. Higginson just has exactly the shape that you want, and that works out even better, I think. So,
where does Colovito come in for you? That's what Awaken G is running.
Curious to hear that as well, because I was all excited to put the new Giancarlo Stanton on a cap team. Rocky Colavito.
Oh, Colavito, yeah.
Is like almost like shockingly close to as good as Giancarlo Stanton, given that there are 11 bullet points apart.
Well, one way he is. So as a platoon bat in
Yeah, sure.
particular,
Yes.
you know, because Colavito doesn't really lose as much. Yeah, I think that's a solid option.
Yeah, Colavito and Ted sounds like a fun platoon. If I had Colavito, I would try him out. He looks pretty good in the data. Again, kind of similar to Ted, where his war isn't as great because of his running ability or lack thereof. His defense isn't as good as some of the other options, but solid bat. I like it.
All right. We got someone that says they're going to run Abreu, so maybe we'll get a little bit more data.
Nice. And it's, well, I don't know how, I think because it's the number 69 out of 100, it's going to have much better stats than the rest of them. So I don't know.
I was on a call with someone that ripped number 68 and was like really salty that they had missed 69.
Well,
that
just means you got to open more packs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, someone beat him to it.
Congratulations on that score! Wow.
So, shall we talk about Ken Griffey Jr. for a minute?
Sure. Should we go to Griffey Field?
Yeah. CF for.
Right. The model likes Griffey. I'm running Griffey both ways in Perfect League, and well, I was going to say doing just fine. Griffey's doing just fine. Don't ask about the team. But it's not Griffey's fault.
We had an agreement at the beginning of this to not talk about Perfect League today, so we'll just move on.
Let's just say that I'm just going to leave it at it's not Griffey's fault.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to. Yeah.
Man, Giles, number 3 center field is a wild pick.
Yeah.
Again, I feel the same about center as I do with short. I'm not willing to sacrifice too much on defense.
So yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think the Giles thing is weird because I think what's happening is that Warbot doesn't understand why he's getting a 58 rating in center when he's fully trained there, and thinks that should be a bit higher.
That's fair.
So I'm actually not quite sure what's going on there.
You tell Warbot that Warbot is wrong.
No, Warbot tends to really like defense. It's just that Warbot likes I even more than defense. At least in the current meta.
Yeah.
Let's see. As for the observed data, Griffey's great. Dobie's great. Richie Ashburn ends up there. You see Giles is fine in war also, but probably not a lot of people are running him in center.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. I think there was such a huge gap between Griffey and the next best options in the early days of the game. But since we've had, Dobie was a more recent addition, and Ashburn from the Build a Legend Diamond.
Dobie was a day one release, but just a tournament card that doesn't appear that much or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I think, Ashburn is... There's a huge gap in war, but I don't think it's actually as bad as it looks. He's better in everything except hitting home runs.
Oh, I think Ashburn's completely playable. The other Ashburn, Warbot has 5th, has Max Carey kind of in between. Jim Edmonds is playable. Sam Jethro. Paskert's still playable. There's actually almost no gap between 4th and about 10th here. Who? Sorry?
Oh, now I'm just saying ridiculous things. Like Spotswood Pulls is playable.
I do not endorse this message either.
Not sure I'd go that far. This is where Warbot thinks that Bo Jackson fits a little better. Because if you're going to struggle with defense anyway, at least you get the bat.
Yeah, who's the platoon picks here? I'm curious. Is it Griffey?
I really wanted Kiermaier to be available, to be viable, but he just doesn't seem to be anymore.
Yeah, I will echo that with the observed data. His bat is just not
I think
good.
your best platoon is, of course, just Griffey's really good. Okay, he's good. Despite being a limited edition card, Griffey is still the biggest winner in Center.
Yep.
I almost want to just make him the budget pick and say just figure out a way to get a Griffey. You know,
I'm gonna
I
tell you, you
guess
can't do that. Like, go
This
nuts.
is your show, man.
Yeah.
yeah. But I think for an actual budget pick, it's just worth pointing out that at this point, the build a lineup, this is one where Richie Ashburn is completely viable and is just going to be much easier to get given the other cards you're going to have on hand than most of these other options. If you can get Doby, great. If you can get Giles, you could probably make it work. Obviously, if you can get Griffey, you want to run Griffey. But Ashburn on a budget is still going to be perfectly playable and about as good as any of the non-Griffey options.
Yeah, I will give a shout out to Doty too, Dode Paskert. George. Doty
Yes,
Paskert.
George.
He's still pretty good in the observed data. He's got about 3,600 PAs. So if you need a backup / platoon for Ashburn, Paskert's passable too.
I also when I was looking for platoon options, so if you're willing to platoon, you can actually get away with Doug Glanville in Center.
Right. I haven't seen the new Glanville yet. But that's a really good card, honestly. Yeah, that's definitely worth a look.
So you could platoon, say, Glanville and Edmonds, and you're probably going to get almost as much as you get out of Griffey. It just costs you 2 roster spots.
Oh, man.
And you need to play 2 people eligible at center field anyway. So, it may crunch your roster building elsewhere, but you're always making trade-offs. So maybe this is one that you make if you don't have Griffey.
All right. So what are we actually running? Well, despite all of this talk about your alternatives, we're both running Griffey.
I mean, if you have him, you have to play him. I have number 6 of the Griffey. That was probably my first really good back pull of the year, I think.
Yeah.
I say first. I haven't had that many. I think I've had maybe 1 or 2 other cards that were as good as that. I guess Guerrero wasn't really a pull. That was a win, but
I had to buy a Griffey.
That's my highlights.
Yeah. I had to buy a Griffey, but that's one of the couple LEs I've bought that I've gotten a ton of mileage out of. Him and Tommy John, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. No regrets.
So, right. Right. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, Mostel.
So this is
I
where
like
the
Mostel.
model. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
This is looking in the chat. People were mentioning Mostel. Yeah, I like that card too. I think that was my first tournament edition card that I won this year. So I've had him for a while and try to use him when I can. Also a really fun card.
He ends up just outside the top 10 on this, but 3 of those are limited edition, and then there's a difficult tournament card to get. So Mostel's definitely viable. So in right, this is where the model really likes Abreu. Again, it's a card with 105i and a meta that doesn't have a lot of control. So there's really no way that Warbot isn't just going to grab that card on site, right? Giles is great. Stanton's great. If you have to move one of them to left field, Giles gets a little better when you move him to left, and Stanton gets a lot worse. So Giles, I think, is the one that has to be the left fielder. But
yeah, that sounds right.
But they're all viable. In the data, Stanton's coming out first, and then Giles, and this is where your Richie Zisk ends up. 1 win out of every 4 tournaments.
With that number of plate appearances, that's not it's this is definitely just one guy on a crusade.
It's me. I'll let you know.
So you're trying to say that you have a pretty good win rate in low diamond right now.
I do. I have the best of people who have a lot of games played, but yeah, I've been paying way more attention to it than anyone else, I think.
Let's see. So Zisk is a limited edition 25. There are actually 3 on the auction house, so you can still get them. Man, the speed on that card scares me. The lack of eye. Yeah.
Can't argue with the results, man. I don't know. Zisk it up, baby.
The card art works.
Yeah, the card artwork is nice.
I mean,
Yeah,
he does come out a little behind the other 2 in War, but hey, you really can't argue with winning a quarter of your tournaments, right?
Yeah, I have him in my records of Zisk. I have used him in 37 best of 7 tournaments, and there are 6 other entries from 2 other teams.
Okay.
So yeah, it's mostly me. But I'm gonna go to bat for my boy Zisk here. He's a good
and
card.
you're just winning that many.
Yeah, I think Stanton coming out really hurts him though. Like probably a better option all around.
Yeah, I think it's really only the BABIP where Zisk is going to help you. But
Yeah.
maybe the
I mean,
makes up
I've
for
still
that a
got
little.
yeah, I've still got space for him as my backup corner outfielder or platoon again, since he's pretty good against righties. But yeah, I think I can't. He doesn't quite have the Griffey treatment now that Stanton has come out. It's
No.
not a must-have.
And this is actually, is this the only White Sox limited edition? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the. No, it's a White Sox Baines, isn't it? That's also really good.
Oh yeah, I guess Baines would be the Sox too. Yeah. Yep.
It's funny because I'm too young for that. I think of Baines on Oakland or something.
Yeah, it's funny. Our two LE Sox have been from the malaise era of the logo with the late 70s, early 80s.
I remember Harold Baines in Baltimore, which
Yeah.
you know, he played in Baltimore for like 7 seasons, right? Like this is not some weird thing.
No, it's.
Yeah, I just got to be a homer, and anyone who was a Sox is a Sox for me forever.
So you're,
especially
so you're White Sox, not Cubs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll say we had the limited edition, White Sox legend Ken Griffey Jr.
So how do you feel? And for some reason, I feel like your opinion is very important on this one about the White Sox City Connect jerseys.
Oh, I really like them. I think I haven't. If there's been one that came out like really recently, I haven't seen it. But
they're just the black with white pinstripes that say Southside.
I was gonna say of the rest of the City Connect jerseys, like of the first batch of them, I thought they were definitely the best. But maybe that's just my homer opinion. But I don't know. I think they're super cool. I think the Cubs ones suck.
The Cubs ones are just gross. The Cubs ones are like in the running with the Dodgers for why even bother.
For me personally, I mean it sums up Wrigleyville pretty well. It's also gross is kind of how I feel about the North Side. But that's just me.
Yeah. I was gonna say I remember Wrigley being like a genuinely like nice, cute park, but that was probably 10, 15 years ago now. So
maybe there weren't any fans in it. That would be true. No, I think it is. I really like Wrigley Field. I went to a game there a couple weeks ago, actually. Saw them lose terribly to the Braves.
I will say, and this was my opinion even before moving to the Boston area, that I feel like Wrigley is just bad Fenway. But
I think it's pretty. I mean, there's just there you can't. You can't.
There are some things about Wrigley Field that are genuinely incredibly uncomfortable for a guy that's 6'5".
Oh yeah, Yeah, I'm 6'4", so hey, tall guys unite. We hit our head a lot.
Yeah, I could do a whole TED talk on why those stupid pneumatic things that hang down from door frames to keep metal doors from slamming shut
Yep.
they're just terrible and
Hate
should be banned.
Airplanes are
So
terrible.
coming next week, the discussion will be which team you think about Mike Morgan on, I guess.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think about Mike Morgan. Just don't tell his mom I said that.
Right, platoon.
How does Warbot feel about Bobby Abreu?
Yeah, I think if we're going to platoon, that's where Giles and Stanton, Abreu is more of a two-way player, and Giles and Stanton, especially Stanton versus lefties, that's just such a big bat.
I mean, Giles v. righties is also a pretty huge bat still.
Yeah.
And
it's just a really, really good card.
He's very splitty.
Yeah, I think these are both cards. In general, these are outfielders you want to platoon. Even Griffey could be platoon, but I think just is good enough you want to play in both ways at this point.
Sure.
Let's see. The biggest winner, well, I think just because Stanton kind of came out late, it's not Stanton. It's actually Rusty.
Yeah, that one's really interesting to me. I think that's the lowest of all the winning percentages. There's been a lot of different... Well, and also it's just whatever is labeled on your roster, so it might not actually be who could be playing in first. Yeah.
For a while, I felt like Giles was obviously the better of the two, and they're very comparable, right? Like they're both left-handed low diamond players listed in right field that are tournament rewards. So like, yes, you're going to compare them. Staub being a lot less splitty and also eligible to play at first base, like both really matter as it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Staub's a really good card. If I had him, I would probably find a place for him, yeah.
All the Staub cards have been really good so far.
Yeah, he's always just a fun card. Any Expos, I think that's my second favorite team after the Sox is the old Expos, so... always got a soft spot for him. For some reason, I think the card art always looks good.
Fortunately for you, the National City Connect jerseys are sweet.
Yeah, let me look at those again.
Those ones are real nice.
Don't get me
the
started.
Cherry Blossoms.
Don't get me started on the Fenway ones. Right,
the Fenway ones are hideous and great. How's that?
Oh yeah, the Washington ones are nice. I like the hat a lot for sure.
Yeah.
And the Washington the Washington City Connect jerseys are spelled correctly.
Not the Nationals.
No Nationals jerseys out here, yeah.
I gotta say, a lot of the City Connect ones, I like the hat a lot, and then the jersey I thought looked dumb. But
that's true. I think that's true with Kansas City. I like them both ways for Washington.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but as for a budget pick here, Stanton's just pretty cheap at this point, either from the mission or if you really have to, even in the card shop. So I think that's just a pretty clear choice.
That's the easier mission groups that we will have this year. So
pretty much if you've done the live missions, you're almost done with that mission.
Yeah. I'm running Stanton in left, so I'm actually running Doby here because I think the bat's so good. And this is where I'm running Colavito. Just for the reasons we were discussing earlier, I think the bat just still plays here, right? It's huge power, huge eye, can actually play a bit of defense in right. And I think this is just the spot where I wanted to get Doby in. He was going to be my backup center fielder anyway. And at least as a platoon bat to pair with Colavito just works pretty well. And this is just where you're running Stanton, right?
Yeah, I think just both ways he's pretty... I mean, again, it's another thing just in general. A lot of guys are more split versus left than right this year. There's just not a whole lot of VR power bats. He's still just really good.
Yeah, I think Stanton would even be playing in League at this point if not for the Aaron Judge card.
I think Stanton. I would take him over Judge.
It's close, yeah.
It's really. I mean, as a platoon piece, I guess I would say I would rather find someone else versus right, and I would rather have Stanton versus left.
Because Judge is a lot better defensively too.
Yeah, but not so much that it brings me pain. Let's see. I'm running Stanton and Diamond right now. What's he doing? He's got oh, never mind. He's got negative 0.2 WAR. That's not great. Sitting 210. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you should play Judge. Don't listen to me. I'm only listening to me about low diamond. Don't listen to me about League.
Well, the way I'm going, don't listen to me about League. But you can listen to us about DHs. So
yes, please.
So as before, we've kind of tried in the model to just look for the best bats that you're not going to start elsewhere. There are better bats that are one of the top players at another position. So this is where Fox and Rusty and Ted are just kind of some bats that you can get in the lineup somewhere. And particularly Fox and Ted have just been a natural platoon, I think, almost since day one.
Yep.
And in terms of what people are actually running at DH, this seems to be one of the good landing spots for Stanton. Right? The defense just isn't quite there, and the bat is.
Yeah, I think the defense is definitely good enough, but yeah, I mean, in the observe, this is just going based off of who has the best WOBA, pretty much. Yeah, and Mike Stanton, he does it all.
Yeah.
Every bit as much a Mike as Mike Young is.
Yeah. Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton is more of a Mike than Mike Young, let's be real.
Well, was this from, I'm trying to remember, so what's the date on the card? Is that before or after he changed which name he used?
I mean,
for Giancarlo, I think it's after.
Is it
I'm pretty sure, well.
It was his last season on the Marlins, right? That he...
I think it was before that. Let me check. Right. No, he only played 2010 and 2011 under the name Mike Stanton.
Okay, so...
Yeah. It was it was the last year on the Florida Marlins. Once they became the Miami Marlins, he was like, "Screw it, I'm Giancarlo."
If they can change their name, you know, I can change my name.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I moved to Miami, I might change my name to Giancarlo. Just seems like the vibe, you know.
I could see that. So as a platoon, Mike. Let's see. We're just going to highlight a couple of bats. You know, that if you really want to go all out in a platoon, I think Abreu is just a great one-way option. And yeah, this gold Tulowitzki card from the Platinum set.
Yeah, that Tulo bat is just nuts.
And I think we could have mentioned maybe Hack Wilson in there too, as another option for right-handed side of the platoon.
Yeah, did we... might that be a preview of our shoestring award?
Okay. Oh, I'm trying to remember what we did for the shoestring budget. Let's see. Oh, biggest winner here. Yeah, Jimmy Fox is on every roster basically.
Yes, he's been seeing kind of split usage as first in DH. Totally makes sense.
I could see that. And that's right. That's what we did. Is we decided we'd highlight Hack as another option for the shoestring award because he's also pretty affordable and maybe a better platoon bat, but with that power in that eye, he's always going to play somewhere.
Yeah, I like it.
That's right.
And what are we actually doing? Yeah, I'm kind of running a little bit of a mix at different positions with Morrill, but this is as good a landing spot as any, and Jimmy Fox is a great bat. Let's see, and you're running Zisk here also? Both here and right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's what I've got him. yeah, kind of switching up as a backup in DH. Yeah, did that. Flexibility is nice. He plays decent left and right. Okay, good enough. It's been working out so far. That's what I got to say.
Makes sense. So, all right, should we move on and talk about some pitchers? As usual, we're I think running a little behind schedule, but I guess we're used to that by now, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we can pick it up.
We're on a good pace. Just keep going.
We're on a good pace to finish before the build a lineup missions come out.
The pitchers are not super rocket science, I'll say.
No, I think here in part because the pitchers maybe don't have as big a gap as you'd expect for some of the metas. There aren't really, 2 or 3 guys that you just have to have or something like that. So let's see. So here's kind of a top 10 from the model. And yeah, you see a mixture of some low diamonds and even a few of the better gold options where maybe the shape makes them a little bit better for low diamond even than gold. Of course, we have our obligatory Kevin Brown somewhere up there. I don't know. Any others that you particularly want to highlight?
Let's compare it to the observed and see what. Let's talk about the differences.
Sure. So one thing to keep in mind here is that for the model, you're generally going to be seeing players where the ERA and FIP on average should be about the same. Whereas for the observed, particularly in a small sample size, you're often going to see players that are outperforming their FIP and, where it's not necessarily sustainable. Right.
It is, and also the other main difference I see is guys who have high ground ball tendencies, high BABIP against, end up with higher ERAs and lower FIPS. So, in practice, theoretically, yeah, they're a better pitcher, but if you're not running the best defense that you can have out there, then you might be getting suboptimal results.
Well, not everybody has Morrill.
Right. Yeah, if you're running Morrill, Matthews, you've got Oyster Burns at shortstop, you're not going to want to run Herb Pennock.
That sounds, I could see that. So
that's right. I think, you see the big gap in the high stuff guys. Candelaria and Vandermeer, they're getting a lot more Ks and fly ball outs. Yeah. I don't know. I see kind of the same pattern here that we've had with other ones comparing the model to observed.
Yeah, I think that's one way to think about it, is that the model really is predicting FIP, not ERA. And you hope that in the long run, FIP and ERA are going to end up agreeing, but certainly in a small sample size, they won't. Right? There's a strong sort of survivorship bias towards the ones that are outperforming.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does indicate, what's nice is there's kind of, again, just looking at even these stats, there's not a huge difference in the ERA and the FIP. I have it sorted by WOBA against. Okay. So they're, Bob Welch's opposing WOBA as a starter is 334, and Ojeda's is 341. And he's not even in the top 10 there. Like, it's really not a huge difference.
Yeah. I see Verlander up there. I've already lost to a Verlander, I think, 3 times in Perfect League this season. So,
yeah, there's kind of an even split between the guys who have good strikeout and control but bad movement, and the guys who have good movement but meh stuff and control.
Yeah.
So it's like either one can work. You just have to kind of build your team around that accordingly.
And I think to answer the question on everybody's mind, the model sees Spencer Strider as a reliever.
We've settled that.
Let's see. Couple that are worth mentioning. If you particularly know that you're going against an all righty or all lefty lineup, or believe you can get the openers right, then it's worth noting that Tin Cup and Parnell are both pretty splitty. That Tin Cup card, actually, I
Yeah.
haven't seen many of.
No, I haven't either. That's
Does
been
that
one I've kind
card?
of had on my
I have
this.
one on my pack alt that I won from a draft at some point.
No,
Yeah, that's a card I noticed in gold too. It's like kind of on my radar, but
yeah, there are a couple
just
in
don't
the
see
card
around.
shop, so they definitely exist. But I haven't yet kind of quite decided it was worth buying.
I definitely like it though. I mean, again, yeah, Super Splitty, I would probably run it as a pen piece or follower.
Yeah. And I think you can
That's
also
what I'll
see the
say.
difference in shape, right? So Warbot
Yeah,
really wants these high movement guys, high control, because it's afraid of all of the eye that should be in the meta. People are actually running much lower control pitchers with success. And I think that's the other reason that Toby Hara or Bobby Abreu or really any of these really high eye cards, this is the reason you can actually run George Grantham at second base and get away with it, I think.
yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if that changes with some of the newer cards that come out. But at least at the moment, I think that's the case. And I
Um,
suppose that's the case at least for 2 weeks, right? Because we're expecting that Platinum 2 is going to be the next good set of cards.
yeah, and that's what I think another thing about Low Diamond. It gets better as the year goes on, and we have more options. I don't think it was very exciting at the beginning of the year, and that's why a lot of people weren't playing it. But as soon as a lot of the platinum cards became very good options. There's a lot more choices now. So I think after the next platinum set, we should have a really interesting Low Diamond meta.
Yeah, I think the other thing is hopefully we've been able to show here it's actually cheaper to get most of the top low diamond cards than it is, say, the silver cards that you need to get out of tournaments.
Yeah,
And that
pretty
won't be true
wild.
forever because the silver tournament cards should come down in price a bit just as more of them get out there. But for now, this is as affordable as silver.
And for what it's worth, I'm looking at my observed data. It's only 230 batters faced, but Spencer Strider is second out of anyone with that that much usage in WOBA against. So maybe he still is the best card.
Could be.
His ERA is 3.76 and his FIP is 5.05. So take of that what you will.
So he's got some really good defenses behind him.
He's striking him out, so he doesn't need the defenses. That's what it is.
Let's see. Your biggest winners. It's actually funny. It's a combination of, in some cases, just the cards that we're seeing on a lot of rosters, but also a couple cards like Furpo Marbury and Lee Meadows that aren't being run that often or just winning at a really high rate. So, and a range of shapes, right? You see PV up there too, although maybe that one's just more as a counting stat.
Yeah, and I mean, I still really like PV, but I like him as a pen piece rather than a starter. I think he's one of those guys where you see a bigger change in his stats in the pen versus as a starter. Just the way that his pitches are and stuff, he works really well out of the pen.
Once you drop him down to a 2-pitch guy.
Yeah, it's that sinker.
And as for some budget options, I guess that's one of the nice things about having so many starting pitching options is that really a lot of these are affordable and possibly will still be affordable in 4 hours, right? Even Pennick's not that expensive for what you're getting. He was on release, but that's come down pretty quickly.
He and PV will still be cheap. They're live rewards for Lander.
Yeah, I think that'll be an option. The gold Kevin Brown's very affordable, for what you get. Kendall Ari is affordable. Really most of his options. So, all right, what are we actually running here? Let me put up what we're actually running. So we're both running Garcia, we're both running Furpo, we're both running Pennick.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to beat. Furpo, Garcia, that shape is just solid. They should be kind of your default picks, I think.
The other
Welch
thing,
has been good.
Yeah. The other thing that's great, Pennick has a slight reverse split, and Garcia has this huge reverse. Sorry, not Garcia. Excuse me. And Firpo has a significant reverse split.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I'm actually, this isn't really a grand strategy that I've had, but just kind of how it has played out as I've made little adjustments here and there. But I've been using Pennick as an opener, just because I like that reverse split, and I think Vandermeer I've been using as a follower. But
yeah,
there's not really any. I'm not gonna say there's a grand plan behind that. I'm thinking now I might want to change it since the Stanton card came out. I haven't messed with my roster much. I'm kind of hesitant to use left-handers now, pretty much at all, because of how good that card is against lefties. So we'll see.
So Vicarious, I think that's a good point. And maybe what it says is that we should be doing some of these cards like the night after the new card release stream or something instead of right before. But
yeah, we'll see if that changes.
I guess also maybe we should just switch the order. You know, maybe it's a mistake because we did the gold right before the gold build lineup also, right?
Yeah, I think it's just been.
Next week we'll try to avoid
that. Talk a little open next week, maybe. Talk about the new cards.
Could do that.
That's an idea.
All right. How about some relievers?
Yeah, I'm really curious. I haven't seen what your model says for this either.
So I think this is again one where you really have a lot of options out there that are pretty similar. But I think one place the model and the observed disagree a little bit here is that in the observed data we see a lot of people just converting starters and getting that stuff boost. And the model thinks the relievers are still ahead of the starters right now and really wants you to kind of be running relief options for the most part. Maybe someone like Grisenda or Maltzberger is about at the point that you can start to go with a converted starter.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if the model's wrong, but, it's good to have that.
Well, I think if you look at the numbers, right, generally the FIPS for the cards that the model likes do seem to be a little bit better. But again, the ERAs aren't. So then that's just a question of, do you think that in the long run the ERA is going to equal the FIP for all of these or not? Right? Or is there something about their shape that changes it? The other thing too
is we're looking at observed stats for total usage as both reliever and starter. If you try to kind of parse out and like filter it down to guys who are only coming in relief either through controlling for looking at not starting any games or how many innings per game they're pitching, a lot of the starters improve a lot out of the pen, of course, especially the more splitty ones versus the ones that start the game.
So a few things I think are worth pointing out here. First off, Clay Holmes, he's actually a guy that I'm running in league occasionally. He's kind of up there. Assenmacher ends up as the top reliever overall, but if you can manage to use him as a specialist, just look at those numbers versus left.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible.
Let's see. Isringhausen's an interesting card. The model, I think, significantly overrates him because he somehow has a one-hold runners.
Yeah, Isringhausen is someone that I've never had good luck with. I got that card really early on and thought it would be a lot better than it is, but yeah, no luck for me.
Well, I think the hold runners is a big part of it because there's really, so much of that in the current meta.
Yeah, and that's kind of hard to fully account for in the model, I guess.
Let's see. Lyle's another card that I've been running in league. Quisenberry, that's the most incredible stat line I've seen because he's winning 1 out of every 70 tournaments, but you only have 351 innings. So that means he's not just losing tournaments. He's losing tournaments immediately. Right?
Wow. Yeah, I think he's probably only won like once. Let's see.
Well, he must have won 1 out of 70, but that still means he's averaging 5 innings pitched per tournament. So he must be basically getting a first round exit 80% of the time or something to be able to sustain that.
Yeah, let's see. I have 75 Quisenberries in the data, and he's been on a winning team twice.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Oh wait, I guess one of those was more recent that I just downloaded. So yeah,
All right, so
it's
it can't go
trending
down,
upwards. Yeah, it's trending up.
There, well, can't be trending down.
No, I don't hate that Quisenberry. Again, if you got really good defense.
Well, it's again a card that sort of wants to be a specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again a card that really looks like it wants to be a specialist. That 108 control versus righties, I don't think is a number I've seen before.
Yeah, he doesn't walk anyone, but he does not strike them out either. But again, like it's not even that huge of a difference between, the top 5 guys, the top 10 guys, top 20 guys.
No.
Really, all the guys who are really below average are, there's been enough live cards used in tournaments that, all the live guys really weigh down the stats, and just a couple cards that are straight up bad, like Addy Joss, Joe Smith, the new Platinum Joe Smith is just not good. Gold cards, some of them are passable. I think in relief, I've got like Sad Sam Jones, looks pretty good. Candelaria, obviously. That Joaquim Soria is interesting. Obviously, his ERA is almost a full run lower than his FIP, and he has like the lowest BABIP against of anyone. So there's definitely been some good luck there, but he's totally usable.
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample.
It's still totally usable. I mean, that FIP is average at worst.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Frank Larry, Jim Brewer, Grigenda, Kevin Brown. Yeah, there's plenty of decent gold options. So again, pitching, I'd say, like I said, it's not super rocket science. There's a lot of pretty good options and a couple cards we would recommend, but not nothing that's gonna kill you if you don't have it, right?
No, and I think as far as if you're going to look at specialists, well, you can kind of see up there really what the best options are out of specialists, right? That Quisenberry versus Wright is really tough to beat, and these numbers for Assenmacher the other way. I think another card that's worth highlighting, though, just because maybe you wouldn't have looked at it otherwise. So we'll kind of put up this Daryl Knowles card again, too, which actually somehow is even more movement versus lefties than Assenmacher, and is right up there with that card. And he's doing pretty well in the data set, right? So maybe people have been able to use him as a specialist. I can't imagine you're using him as anything other than a specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. You can kind of get away with a loogie.
Well, he must be, because he's also one win in 77 tournaments and 320 innings pitched. So he must be pitching. He must basically only be throwing occasionally as a specialist.
Yeah, he's probably facing about 6 batters.
Yeah, but he's also
in the whole tournament.
So
yeah.
Right. Okay. And then let's see some budget picks. Well, I think in this case the good news is pretty much everything here is a viable budget pick, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll throw a few examples out there as a mixture. I think definitely for any budget picks list, you got to start with the gold live card, which essentially almost plays like a perfect card. But you could pretty much just go down the list almost. These are all affordable cards.
Yeah, and I would definitely shout out PV and Tim Lincecum.
Lincecum's definitely
I'm sorry, are you trying to say Big Time Timmy Jim?
Big Time Timmy Jim, that's
yes, there you go.
Lincecum. He is, again, someone I think who is a lot better out of the pen than as a starter. Just kind of the way that his stats are allocated. So Don't be scared off by his stats. Just don't use him as a starter.
I'm definitely going to be scared off by the movement there.
Well, Lincecum has good movement. He has bad control.
Will Holmes go diamond next week? I mean, if you just look at the stats, he could easily go perfect, right? I still have no idea, how they're kind of rating or re-rating relievers, and in particular what they've done with movement, kind of changing the overalls. I have no idea, right? But it is the case that if you just look at the stats, right, he's given up, let's see, no home runs in 44 innings, 47 strikeouts, 10 walks, 201 FIP. I mean, that's probably around the level of a perfect, right?
Pretty good.
I mean, how does that compare with, say, Clase, right? Clase just went perfect. And he's got a 211 FIP.
Hi, Obelix Prime.
Hello?
But yeah, your guess is as good as mine for relief pitchers going perfect. He doesn't not have a chance.
I mean, I think my favorite last year was when I looked at, Liam Hendricks having about a .55 whip and like a sub 1 FIP for half a season, and said the guy's got to go perfect from diamond, and he went gold instead.
Yeah.
I think today I'm calling you Mr. Krister, unless you tell me not to. This is referring to Obelix Prime over here.
Let's see. Right. Okay. So who are we actually running? Who are we actually running? And yeah. So mine looks pretty similar to the model, except that I am trying to run Knowles as a specialist. I still believe I can eventually teach my AI manager to run specialists, right?
You just have to believe. Try really hard.
And you're running kind of more of these converted starters. And I think if you look across the board, maybe the FIPS for the relievers are a hair lower, if anything, but then the ERAs for yours are probably a bit lower. They seem to be below the FIP.
Yeah, and we definitely agree on Assenmacher. He's good enough even as a reliever.
I can even convince you that he has to be run as a reliever, right?
Yeah, he's just too good of a specialist. And I am indeed running him. Well, actually, no, I guess I have a middle relief primary specialist as a secondary role. Maybe I should just make him a specialist. I'm going to do that right now. See if I win the next low diamond.
There you go. Right, so that's kind of what we're running in low diamond right now. Plus, I guess a bit of speculation on where the build lineup's going to go. So hopefully you run out and grab any of these cards that are in the missions before they're in the mission. Save yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm been looking up some values on the auction house. Well, not the auction house, the card shop while we're talking here, and it's definitely some slight speculation hitting already. But again, I don't think it'll go up more than the golds did, but it'll settle out at a reasonable rate. It just really I was going to say, I wanted to mention, a lot of the historical diamonds so far this year have not been very valuable, but it's just because they really haven't been in any good missions.
Yeah.
The Negro League missions have had some pretty valuable diamonds.
True. The Negro League and Platinum Series ones obviously are worth a lot, but
this is going to depend a lot on how tight the missions are.
Yeah.
Right. If it's like you need 7 of these 8 or 9, they'll be worth a lot more than if it's like you need 5 out of these 9 or 6 out of these 11 or whatever.
I'm actually not quite sure that's true. I think if you need 7 out of these 9, then a lot of managers are going to look at it, mostly punt on the missions, and maybe try to do the one or two that fit into their lineup. Whereas if it's 5 out of 9, most managers are still going to have to buy a couple pieces, but they're going to think they can finish them all. So like 3 out of 9 will be cheap, and like 7 out of 9 will be cheap, and I think 5 out of 9 is where it gets tougher.
Maybe also there's the thing of it's always if any of those guys that were released more recently are required, they're going to be a lot harder to come by. So some of the cards that have been out since day one, there's a lot more of them in circulation. So I think there will be plenty of dupes for sale tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is it seems like this year a lot more people have been saving duplicates, speculating on them, and then kind of racing each other into the market. But
Yeah.
it also just depends because the problem is there's a lot of them, right? There's 12, I guess. So if you have some topper where you really need to finish all 12, then there's a big gap between doing the 2 of them that you think are really going to play in the meta and doing all 12 to get the topper.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this just comes down to what managers decide to do. So, for example, the Platinum, it seemed to me at least like there was a rush initially to kind of rush and finish the mission. But then the prices really started to drop back to where they were before those missions were released because managers either decided I'm going to complete these missions immediately or I'm just not going to get there. And there wasn't a lot of in between.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Well, like,
I
did
think
you two complete Jerry Royce? I guess you probably did on a primary, but did you try to on your alts, or did you just sell your platinum cards?
No, I the first thing I did that night on my pack only account was to sell Jim Wynn for some thoroughly gross amount of points.
That's funny for me. I actually had a kind of reverse experience. I haven't finished it on my main, but on the capybaras, since I have been.
Yeah, you were collecting for low diamond anyway.
Right,
so-
that's the thing is I had so many of these because I just bought them for low diamond specifically. So there's another good reason to get into some tournaments that not everyone's playing. Maybe you'll end up with some useful cards for missions too.
Yeah, well, I know all of my historical diamond duplicates, and to be fair, I think that's like 4 of them. But I've definitely been holding them to see what missions they're in before I sell them. And I'm guessing a lot of people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of doing on my main account. And the capybaras, I'm pretty much just selling off everything that's not nailed down to finish whatever I need to do for tournaments and stuff. So
yeah, that sounds right.
yeah,
That makes sense.
well,
I think that's what I'll be doing again after a few more league losses. But I'm still pretending I can compete this week.
we'll see. It should be hopefully a good night for content. Forward to.
Yeah.
Woo, content.
All right, that's
All
low
right. I
diamond.
think that sounds like maybe a place to wrap up. Any more questions people have about low diamond or something like that?
Just hit us up on Discord anytime. You know where to find me.
Sounds good. And as always, we're gonna have the VODs of this on YouTube. Usually a week or 2 later, but before they expire here. So.
Thanks everyone for being here. Just a reminder, we do have a request out involving drops. No updates to give you there yet. Yeah, always. We plan shows like 4 or 5 days ahead of time, so you've got a day or two to submit requests for formats. And with the caveat that we have to have data from somewhere to talk about it, right? So if you want a format and you have data for the format, you're speaking our language.
That's a win-win-win.
Sounds good.
We might even have you guest on the show.
Yeah, it might be something I don't know anything about. Entirely possible.
Well,
I don't
that's
know
what it
about
is
a
for
lot
me
of
most
things.
weeks, is something I don't know anything about, right?
Yeah, same.
Well, this was fun. It's good talking to you guys, and thanks
Well,
everyone for being here.
well,
Thanks a
Mr.
lot.
Krister,
And
pick a format, reach out with some data, let's make it happen. Is it possible to do a PTCS review after next weekend? So,
Ooh,
I think that depends a lot on the format.
yeah.
We don't really know what it's going to look like yet, but what I will say to that is that the format of the show that Mr. Krister here and Aster and Durden do over on twitch.tv/follow Durden. I would be very surprised if they don't do a review of this one. If you haven't seen it, go take a look at the review of the previous one. I think it'll if you haven't seen it yet, and this is not something that you feel particularly confident in, they'll definitely teach you some stuff that might help you get your head in the right place heading into this next one. So go give that a watch.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
good.
Um,
Yeah, their stream is great. It's great to hear all of Durden's deepest, darkest tournament secrets. Because
Forget
he
the
beats me
deepest,
a lot.
darkest tournament secrets. Just give me that drawl.
Me too. I did not expect it.
Just has a very
No,
soothing voice.
it's great to hear someone's voice like that, and you're like, oh, cool. Now I can read all of his messages and chats in that voice.
Yep.
That's great.
Like, anytime I see the word cards, I hear cards in Chris's voice. So
Of course. You got to make sure you got the good carrots.
It's true.
this year, I think it's Dish. I'm hearing this guy right here.
This, of all of the seasons that this guy had in his career, this was one of them.
Of all the guys, this right here is a guy.
Yes.
That's my Dish impression.
That's the bronze Jonathan Papelbon review.
the Bob
Like,
Gibson review.
This is definitely a card.
Yeah.
Bob Gibson. That Gibson makes that card representing 1968 Bob Gibson is a crime. It's not a felony, but it's at least a misdemeanor.
You know, I was really thinking after that I'd go look up the stats on Baseball Reference or something, and Phipp would say he just got incredibly lucky or something. No, nope. He was as good as we thought he was.
He is who we thought he was.
Let him off the hook. Wait. No, we don't have to do that. Fix your shit. Keep swinging for the fences. Yeah, I can't say that, or Chris is going to copyright strike our stream.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep fencing for the swings.
Yeah.
Something fences.
All right. Sounds good. See y'all next week.
Indeed.
Bye, everybody.
Ooh.